Okay, here's the next video. Hold off. Wee. Okay. 3 of them, I can deal with that. Now you may be wondering, why the frick do you have 16 layouts? It's because I'm not willing to change basically any of them, and having 16 layouts is funnier than having 16 layouts that you basically don't change at all is way funnier than having like 5 layouts that you consistently change and upgrade around a certain idea. And all of them are somewhat different concepts. Somewhat. Yeah, they're the same concept but with a different hole. And maybe they're the same concept but with another item that kind of changes things somewhat. Okay. So these guys back here, they're copper walkers. That's what I decided to name. It's bad. It's weird looking into the background and seeing how far back the Kinetic Workshop stretches. It looks mechanical. It looks mechanical and empty. Which really contrasting with the clock steampunk thing that's going on. You know, clockpunk and steampunk, you normally associate those. Clockpunk especially, you normally associate with a bunch of moving parts and mechanical. It's not mechanical. It's machine-like. You see, like clockpunk and steampunk are meant to be away from like machinery. Yes, they are technically machines, but like a different type of machines than we usually see. They're like mechanical. But these seem, but with that empty feel, it feels like a warehouse. But looking at the background, it makes it feel like a warehouse with tons of metallic machines instead of mechanical machines. It just kind of bugs my brain. Not really bugs it. It's a really weird contrast. The effect is the worst where you find an area of the background where there isn't a bunch of pipes or something. Distract you from that. Good grief, I've been grabbed. Please don't grab me. That's all I beg of you. Anyways, I'll try to make a semi-complete thing for the Kinetic Workshop. Oh, I have Google. Or Bing on my computer. I can just search up the description for the Stride Lord. Hold on, I'm not doing it on my phone. Because, well, yeah. Hold on, I gotta search up the Stride Lord's description. Guess what? I got the description for the Stride Lord on my computer. Let's see the Reaver. Its description reads, before the infection spiraled out of control, Reavers rarely had gels. However, because Behind themselves, those with drills are the only ones that remain. When they charge downwards, their propellers create a powerful updraft. Now, I'm going to talk about this first. Weavers rarely had drills. Was that a small fraction of them, I think 10% to be generous, had drills. And you know how many weavers we see in Kinetic Workshop? That's a lot of weavers with drills for them to have been rare. They were like, and I'm just being generous here, 10% weavers with drills. And I say about like, it's very good to say like 11 to 20 weavers can spawn in Kinetic Workshop. That would mean times that by 10. There were 110 to 200 weavers in the Kinetic Workshop. Now that is a generous estimate. It had been 5%, but even with those odds, that 11 to 20 number still becomes, I'm not doing that math. $11 times 5, 55. There could have been 55 to 100 weavers in the Kinetic Workshop that we would have seen in those 4 sectors. These things were obviously being mass produced. Why were they being mass produced though? And why were there weavers without drills? Now, I think weavers had different specialties. Now, I'm assuming the other specialty weavers didn't have defense, but the drill weavers, whose specialty was to dig, maybe to drill holes into things, probably, they were the only utility that had defense. So what did the other weavers have? Because they obviously weren't playing drills. They wouldn't have been able to do anything. And like even we can say the drone weaver's drones. The drone weaver's drones look something like this. So they may have still been able to sort of do stuff and maybe grab things. So the weavers couldn't have just been like playing drones. They had to do something. And what did they do? And what were their utilities possibly? Well, we see drill weavers, right? And they were probably meant to drill holes into things, as I already said. I think they were used to sort of help repair the Kinetic Workshop. So you could have had I don't really know. I'll come up with the other weaver utilities later. Maybe share them in the Discord, but for Corebound. But yeah. Then there's basically the weaver was mass produced to do different jobs, and it had different utilities. And the drill weaver was the only one with a utility that could help with defense. Shatterclaw. Its description reads, only designed to build and move things around, Shatterclaws will damage themselves when slipping to the ground. You will try to predict your movements, try to describe direction to confuse them. Oh wait, Yeah, reapers were definitely repurposed for fighting. Like the drill reapers, they maybe the other reapers had utilities that could defend themselves, but but I think Kinetic Workshop was vastly unprepared for the description for the infection from what I know so far. So they hastily programmed all of them, and only the drone reapers actually had good enough programming to survive. The other utilities failed. Anyways, Shredderclaw. When you decide to build and move things around, sure, your claws will damage themselves into the ground. They damage themselves. So it says, I don't know what else there is to say here. They were used to move things around, but they were also used to build. So I guess they move things around to other places where weavers would help and build. No Cyclovein splicing, or right now, Cycloveins could avoid the danger of many of the workshop's experiments. Now, this gives us a little clue about the Cyclovein. On the workshop, there were experiments being conducted here, and some of them were not safe, to say the least. Now, that could give, some indication as what the other Reaver utilities could have been. Like, maybe there was shield Reavers, little copper plates at the bottom of them, and they were engaged in the shield. So, that could have been one of the Reavers. Maybe they were reprogrammed to try to smash down the enemies, but their copper shields were only meant for defense, not offense. So, they didn't do all that good. Anyways, you see Cyclovein has weapons. Now, I don't see these being used for experiments, at all. So, I think they were definitely installed after the infection. After the infection started. But, okay, so the weapons were installed after the infection started, but they obviously had to be there before the infection because they were obviously there. Because it says they were there during the workshop's experiments, which implies they were there when it wasn't infected. So, what exactly was their purpose? I think they may have been meant as human monitoring. They had some sort of camera where the humans could monitor what's going on. Again, the Cyclovein's description says that the experiments being done in the Kinetic Workshop were dangerous, so humans obviously couldn't be there. So, yeah. And they had to obviously an attempt to Barrelspire. Its description means in an attempt to prevent the spreading infection, Barrelspires are excessively fortified. And like most machines, they were primarily built for battle. Now, this description implies that they were not there before Workshop was infected. They were added after the fact in an attempt to prevent the spreading infection. Yeah. Oh, hold on, I have to do another video. Hold on. Go to the next video, I guess.